A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. My sincere greetings to all of you around the world, and a very warm welcome to the 6th day of the 21 Days Habit Challenge. A quick recapitulation of what we discussed yesterday. The first principle that we discussed yesterday was, in trying to deal with a bad habit, we should learn how to say a no from inside and pass a test. But simply saying a no from inside is not sufficient. We also have to say a no to the things and the stuff outside that will trigger that temptation. And therefore we heard we need to stay away from and do away with all those temptations, all those stimuli that trigger that bad habit for us. And what if that stimulus is people? Close people in our family, close people in our social network, close people at our workplace. How do we deal with that? We heard that we need to be cautious, conscious, and extremely mindful in a way that we do not get affected by what they do to us. Of course, this is a deep subject by itself, and a little later through the next 2 weeks we will bring this up and hear how not to get affected by the stimulus of people. Today, however, on the 6th day of our 21 Days Habit Challenge, I would like to focus on another very crucial principle to deal with our bad habits, and that crucial principle is our association, our company. Don't they say, tell me what your association is and I'll tell you who you are. The famous English proverb goes, a man or a woman is known by the company he or she keeps. Yes, indeed, association is a very crucial principle in trying to tackle our bad habits. Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, in fact, a documentary movie is being released on him. It's called the Hare Krishna in PVR cinemas all across India. I recommend, if you have the time, do watch this movie. On the 15th of December it gets released. He's one of my greatest inspirations in my life. I was very influenced by his teachings, and I took to the spiritual life by his inspiration. So Srila Prabhupada told a very funny story once. He said, there was a man in a village in India, and he went to the fields to do his morning duties. Because in India, in those days, they wouldn't have restrooms in the house. So as he went in the fields to perform his morning duties, after he was done, he turned around and looked at the stuff. And he said, I am so good looking and so handsome. I can't believe that something so obnoxious and nasty can come from me. The little stuff spoke back to him and said, you're calling me obnoxious and nasty? Last night, I was a fragrant, good-looking, handsome, piping hot samosa, and look what your association has done to me. Srila Prabhupada chuckled, and he said, therefore, we have to be extremely cautious and careful of whom we associate with. Isn't it true that association can actually uplift and upgrade us, or it can downgrade and degrade us to the lowest levels of depravity? And when I talk about association, I'm not talking about interactions. All of us will have to interact with people at our workplace who may not be all that great to be with. All of us will have to interact with our friends in our social circle who may not be those guys whom we really want to hang out with. Interactions are different. When we talk about interactions, interactions are more neutral dealings. We kind of get the job done, we do the needful and whatever is necessary. But it's more neutral kind of dealings, a hi-hello kind of a relationship. When we talk about association, however, association is a much deeper concept. Association is not just about neutral dealings of hi, hello and doing the needful. Association is about intimate dealings with the person whom we are connecting to. It is about intimacy. Srila Rupa Goswami, a 15th century saint coming in the Gaudiya Vaishnav school of the Bhakti tradition, a devout disciple and devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wrote a very beautiful book called the Upadeshamrita, translated by Srila Prabhupada in English as the Nectar of Instructions, in which he gives several instructions to practicing devotees of Krishna how to go deeper in their spiritual practice. And in one particular text, in one particular verse, he talks about, or he advises the devotees how to go deeper in their intimate association with each other. But this verse is a principle. Whether it's for devotees or with association and our connection with anybody else, the principle holds true. The Sanskrit word says, Dadati pratigrihnati guhyamakhyati prichhati bhunkte bhojayate chaiva shadvidha priti lakshanam. He says these 6 things are priti lakshanam. They actually increase the intimacy of love when we are associating with someone. And the first principle he talks about is dadati pratigrihnati, which means giving and receiving. Intimacy in our association begins with giving and receiving, a give and take relationship. We give gifts, we receive gifts, we give things, we receive things. For example, you might say to someone whom you're connecting to, okay, go ahead, use my car for today. Or you might say, you can go ahead and use my Wi-Fi dongle. Or you could even go to the extent of saying, oh, you can come over tonight and stay with us, we have an extra room. You might even ask him to use your house. And the person may come back to you and even say to you one day, oh, you're short of funds at this point of time, you can use my credit card and you can pay me later. No worries. We start giving things. We start receiving things. There is an exchange of things. And we don't allow that exchange of things to happen with any Tom, Dick and Harry on the street. That exchange is only with people whom we would want in our inner circle. Therefore, the general interactions moves to intimate association when there is an exchange of things, when there is an exchange of gifts. Now, this further on, as we go deeper into that association, Rupa Goswami says, Bhunkte bhojayate chaiva, which basically means now we start exchanging food. Like earlier we were just exchanging things, now we start exchanging food. Where you might call someone over, say, why don't you come over to my home for lunch this afternoon? The other person may say, why don't you come to my home for dinner tonight? And there is an exchange of food that happens. In India there's a very popular coffee outlet which is called Cafe Coffee Day, CCD, and their tagline is, a lot can happen over coffee. And actually a lot does happen over coffee. A lot does happen over pizzas. A lot does happen over a lunch or a dinner. There's a deep emotional bonding that happens. In fact, even with business, a lot of business deals are struck over a cup of coffee. A lot of times marriage proposals are made over a cup of coffee or a light snack. Sometimes there's a lot of intimate dealings of affection and love that are shared over a cup of coffee or a meal. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this tagline is quite deep actually. A lot can happen over coffee. The intimacy of our connection, the intimacy of our association moves from sharing just a credit card or a Wi-Fi dongle or a car or a motorbike or a room in the house. It goes deeper when we start interacting with each other over meals. And over meals, in those light moments, a lot of our heart is shared, which comes or which brings us to the third level of intimacy. Srila Rupa Goswami says the third level of intimacy is Guhyam Akhyati Prichhati, which means we start revealing our heart in confidence. We start opening up and we start listening to the other person's heart in confidence. When the other person opens up, we are opening the doors of our hearts. We are opening the doors of our mind for that person to deposit his or her thoughts inside of us. We are actually opening the doors of our heart for that person to enter into our hearts. Earlier we just opened the door for things, then we opened the doors for food. Now we are opening the doors for the person, for his or her thoughts, for his or her belief systems, for his or her value systems. And therefore when we talk about intimate association, we're not just talking of a hi, hello kind of an interaction. We're not just talking of doing the needful. We are talking of beginning with sharing things, moving on to sharing food, to finally sharing thoughts, value systems, belief systems. And most all of this happens unconsciously. We're not even aware that we are being influenced by the values, the beliefs, and the thoughts of the people whom we are so closely, intimately dealing with. And therefore, like giving you an example of smoking, just as an example. For example, there's a young student in university who is hanging out with a guy who's smoking. This guy doesn't smoke, but the other fellow whom he's hanging out with is a smoker, smokes cigarettes. And this guy starts chilling out, hanging out with him. Initially, they're just kind of interacting with each other, doing the needful in the laboratory, doing an experiment together, sharing their notes with each other. That's how the interaction begins. Slowly, they start hanging out more. One day, this guy who smokes says, okay, you need to go there just for 30 minutes. Go take my bike and you can come back again. The next time, this fellow who took the bike says, oh, you need to finish your project and the Wi-Fi is down. Use my Geo-Fi, use my Wi-Fi dongle. Starts with things. The friendship grows, the intimacy grows. It was no longer just sharing notes, no longer just some, doing an experiment in the laboratory. Now it's sharing things that mean to us. The same guys now go to the canteen, the cafeteria together, spend a lot of time eating their vada pav or eating their dosas or eating their pizzas or drinking a cup of coffee in the college cafeteria. And as they hang out, chill out, they start talking to each other. They start speaking their value systems to each other. And the guy who's not smoking doesn't even realize that he's slowly getting influenced. Not to say that everyone would, but there's a high chance that he would get influenced. Why? He's not buying in. He's not giving in to the cigarette that the other guy is smoking. He's giving in to the confidence, the value of confidence that he has. He's not giving in to the cigarette that this guy is smoking. He's actually giving in to the peace and the coolness he keeps despite the stress he has. He's not giving in to the cigarette that this guy is smoking. He's giving in to the value of the tremendous self-esteem that this guy holds. So what this fellow actually gave into by starting to smoke with this other guy is not a cigarette. What he gave into was a value system, a belief system that this other fellow held. The other fellow was cool, the other fellow was confident, the other fellow had a high sense of self-esteem, the other fellow was peaceful in the middle of so much stress. And so what did this guy buy? Not a cigarette, a value system, a belief system of coolness, of confidence, of a high self-esteem. And the cigarette was just a consequence that came associated with that guy's belief system. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I truly, truly feel when we are talking about intimate association, we are talking about a value system, and following that value system comes the lifestyle of that other person. Therefore, don't we say, watch your thoughts, they turn into words. Watch your words, they turn into actions. Watch your actions, they turn into habits. And watch your habits, they turn into your character. Watch your character, it ultimately turns into your destiny. It all begins with a thought. This is precisely why we have to be extremely cautious and careful of whom we hang out with and whom we truly get intimate with. Because intimacy is not just about sharing things and food, it's about sharing thoughts, belief systems, and value systems. This is why I prefer to categorize people. There can be so many different ways of categorizing people, but in terms of dealing with our bad habits, I prefer to categorize people into three broad sections. The first category is vicious people. These guys are actually hardwired. These guys have a very distorted, perverted value system. And if we are surrounded by them in terms of working with them, we just need to do the needful. But with these kind of distorted value systems and mindsets that people hold, we should just avoid such association. Because the more intimately we associate with them and hang out with them, their distorted value system, which is so strong, their distorted belief system, which is so deeply ingrained in them, can rub on us and affect us. So with the vicious, either do the needful, but just avoid them. The second category I talk about is victims. People who are victimized by circumstance, people who got into bad habits somehow or the other, but now they realize that it's not something that they want to do. They realize that they want to come out of it. Such kind of people who are victims and want to come out of the being victimized by their bad habits, I say connect to them. You may have a certain bad habit and they may have a similar bad habit. Come together, connect. Alcoholic Anonymous is about people who have deep addiction to alcohol coming together with a like mindset of trying to give up that habit. They share their best practices, they share their experiences, they share their deep, profound realizations so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So if we are dealing with a particular habit, let's look for someone who's victimized by the same habit and connect to them and form a community. A community doesn't have to be 20 people. Even if it's 2 people, we are a community of 2 individuals dealing with the same habit that we are victimized by. Of course, when you have guys who are victimized by the same habit, they can come together, and it's like 3 patients coming together and dealing with the disease. They can't deal with it themselves, so they need a doctor. So of course, when we form a community, we also need to have someone who's either come out of that habit or who's never been into it, who can guide us through dealing with this habit that we are victimized by. And the third kind of association I speak about is association of those who are virtuous. Virtuous association means those who have the right kind of value system, the right kind of belief, the right kind of thoughts, the right kind of lifestyle. And when we seek such association, we will be influenced by the positive energy of such virtuous association and the right kind of mindset by which we can deal with our habits. So with the vicious, avoid that association. With the victims, connect to such associations so that together we can come out of it. And with the virtuous, seek such association, that positive energy which will influence our thoughts in a way that we can come out of our bad habits very effectively. And therefore, a recap and a summary of what we discussed today. Number 1, association is extremely powerful. It can either upgrade and uplift us or downgrade and degrade us. The second thing that we heard was, when we talk about association, there's difference between interactions and association. Interactions is neutral dealings, association is intimate dealings. The third thing that we heard this morning was, how do those intimate connections come about? First, they begin with exchange of things. They proceed to exchange of food, where deep emotional bondings happen. And then it goes much deeper into exchange of thoughts, value systems and belief systems. What we give into in terms of dealing with the other person is not his or her lifestyle and habit. What we actually give into is the value system that we are influenced by, and the lifestyle just comes as a consequence. And the fourth thing that we discussed this morning is the 3 kinds of association. Vicious association, those guys who have a distorted value system, avoid them. Victim association, those guys who have realized they are victimized and want to come out of it, connect to them, form a community, take guidance and help each other to come out of those bad habits. And virtuous association, seek that association, because by that positive energy of the right value system and the right lifestyle, it will rub on us, and we can certainly be able to deal with our bad habits more effectively. Thank you for being with us. Thank you all for being with us this morning, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning for our Facebook Live session. continuing the 21 days habit challenge, day 7 at Indian Standard Time, 8 o'clock. Have a great day ahead, and thank you very much. Hare Krishna.